Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're discussing WandaVision and the Ultron 2.0 Sentinel theory. In my latest WandaVision breakdown, I discussed a theory about Vision, Sword, and Sentinels that I thought deserved its own standalone video. If you watched my breakdown, you will know this theory, but it will also have some minor points about the theory that I had to remove because of time. So stick around, do not adjust that decade-turning dial, and don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in WandaVision coverage just like this. This channel is all about diving into shows to better immerse ourselves in the story, so if that's your thing, welcome. Without further ado, let's overthink a Disney Plus show about synthezoids. The overall theory discusses the implications of Sword making sentient weapons, the overall feeling of abandonment felt by the world after the snap, this leading to humanity wanting protection without relying on superheroes, and how the theory of Ultron may be back in play, existing as a perfect link between the X-Men universe and the MCU as Sentinels entering this story. Starting off, let's go over what we know about Sword and Hayward. Firstly, we know that Sword was founded by Maria Rambeau, Monica's mother, and we know that when it started, the focus was on sentient weapon observation and response to sentient weapons. We can also deduce that when Sword was ran by Maria, it was not about weapon creation at all, because Monica has been described as basically growing up inside of Sword, and she was surprised later about the creation of anything. So we know that this is a relatively new venture, likely started after her mother died and Hayward took control of the company. We know that they work with the US government, assisting in jobs with the FBI. We can also infer that Sword likely has some connections to the team in Wakanda, possibly even helping in the cleanup efforts after the snap. I imagine the years with Maria at the helm, the group was genuinely good, acting for the utilitarian betterment of the world, possibly even creating the vibranium tracking satellites with Wakanda to stop the black market trade of vibranium. Now that the borders of Wakanda are open to the world, I imagine that's likely even bigger of a problem than it was before, though that's really just speculation, and the vibranium tracking satellite, being as big of a deal as it is, could just as easily be something that Wakanda does not know exists already. It's still unclear how they acquired Vision's body after the snap, because it was last seen in Wakanda, but I do believe that this could relate to them helping the cleanup efforts and working with Wakanda, or being given his body to keep by the military, since he is kind of the OG sentient weapon. We know that his body and mind would maintain a reasonable degree of functionality, and possibly a true fidelity to who Vision really was. You see, in Infinity War, when they try to remove the Mind Stone from his head, they are doing so believing that he would still be him.
I'm saying that if we take out the stone, there's still a whole lot of Vision left, perhaps the best parts. Your mind is made up of a complex construct of overlays. Jarvis, Ultron, Tony, me, the stone. All of them mixed together, all of them learning from one another.
So even without the stone, he is a powerful being. Because Shuri didn't have enough time to remove the stone safely, Wanda needed to kill Vision to destroy the stone. But that doesn't mean that he could not have been brought back in some kind of way. They just didn't know what would happen, and it's entirely possible that he could have been turned back on with a new power source, so to speak. But here is where it gets interesting. We learn that his will spoke about not wanting to be brought back after he was dead, and in relation to the show, he died 5 years ago. So the question remains, why did they have his body torn apart and being studied 5 years after his death? In his introduction sequence, Hayward admits to using artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and robotics to create sentient weaponry. The line is delivered with enough confidence to make anybody believe that that's a normal thing to say, but the implications are incredible. You take robotics and artificial intelligence and you basically have Vision without the Mind Stone. You add nanotechnology and you have Vision, but in a way hitherto undreamt of.
Did you seriously just say hitherto undreamt of?
Nanotechnology has a ton of implications. There's a story that I know of called Cyclic, and it's possible that I wrote this story, but that doesn't matter. But it deals with nanotechnology that is integrated into the human mind after birth, and then for the rest of your existence, you can think of things, and microscopic nanites will form these things in front of you. Nanotech is a great sci-fi tool, and the best part is that we've already seen it in the MCU. Tony's final Iron Man suit was made of nanotech, and it could form into virtually anything that he wanted. It's basically magic, but explained by pseudoscience. I think Sword might be trying to create an artificial intelligence like Vision, but with this technology, combining the three elements of robotics, nanotechnology, and of course artificial intelligence that they were describing to make sentient weapons. I think the only way that you could have made Vision better is if instead of just vibranium, they made him out of vibranium nanotech. So I believe that after Maria died, Hayward took over, and whatever happened to him during this time, because because of the snap, it enraged him, it motivated him, it made him take the company away from this observation stance and into a direction of action. So for the last 3 years, they have been working on the Cataract Project. He discusses how dark it really was and shows an extreme prejudice against superpowered individuals for a reason that I'm sure the show will elaborate on soon. The world trusted the Avengers to protect them, demanding the rest of the world step aside on countless occasions and often not sharing technology because the Avengers thought it was too dangerous. But what happened? After trusting the Avengers, half of the population was destroyed. Superpowered individuals failed when they were needed most, and I think that we're still seeing the fallout of that failure. I believe that like Tony Stark's actions in the Age of Ultron, Hayward is trying to create a force that doesn't require someone to swoop in and save the fragile human. I think this hatred mixed with having this technology available to them is leading them down the path of humanity's protection that does not require magic nor superpowers ever again. Something that exists for mankind, created by mankind, and powered by science, much like Tony Stark believed to be possible. I believe the sentient weapon they are creating, one that requires robotics, nanotech, and artificial intelligence, is a mix of Tony Stark's Iron Legion, which ultimately became the theory of Ultron before he turned into a murder bot, and may exist in the form of something called a Sentinel. I believe these Sentinels will be created to protect the world, much like Ultron was originally supposed to do, and later like Vision was successfully programmed to do. I do believe that they will be ultra powerful and possibly even incorporate vibranium nanotech that makes them nearly unstoppable and formable into anything that they wish to be. If these pseudo-protectors of humanity are called Sentinels, I think this would also be a great way to incorporate the X-Men finally into the MCU. In the X-Men comics, the Sentinels were a construct to protect humanity. Then, because of fear of mutants, it became protecting humanity by eliminating the potential threat of mutants via genocide. It is a very similar theory to Ultron, and I think ultimately the merging of these two universes, this might be a good way to do so. It's the theory of Ultron, but massive beasts that dwarf most mutants. I think because nanotech opens the possibility to them transforming and appearing as nearly anything that you would like them to, different shapes and sizes, potentially even different faces. I think whatever is happening in Westview relates to this program that Hayward is working on, and I think some of the characters may only be appearing as someone that's familiar to us. I also think Hayward's actions may showcase to the world exactly why he hates superpowered individuals so much. I believe that this was either started by him or he is just using it as a way to get the world behind this man-made program to protect itself by showing the dangers of the Avengers, much like the political attacks in the X-Men comic series that showed the world why they should fear mutants. I think it's possible that Vision is already a SWORD programmed entity, considering that we know his body has been tampered with and we know that he doesn't remember anything about his past as a superhero Avenger. I think this isn't our tried and true Vision, but the Vision, like I spoke about in my episode 6 breakdown, linking Hayward to the reason that he now has an on-screen title, The Vision, because he is an object instead of a person. I think this entire thing could be a test to see how their programming handles events like this, to see if it operates for the safety of mankind and understands moral consideration, or if it becomes a crazy murder bot like Ultron. I think that could be why he falls apart as he leaves. It's a failsafe until they know that the program works. Why show us the true form of Vision if when he's powered down, he doesn't revert back to that state? If you look at the edge here, you can make out the hexagonal shapes. So I think if they are taking the nanotech route, it could exist in the form of this hexagon shape, and the reason that we're seeing that everywhere, hinting that it's been there since the very beginning. If you think about what Vision has done inside of this enclosed space, being monitored by SWORD, it has shown deductive reasoning to figure out that something's wrong. It has shown a robot acting not for itself, but for the betterment of humanity, which passes the Ultron check. And just to drive the point further, when Vision breaks out, the teams are ready to destroy him. Hayward even makes a comment about, man, he really wants out, but what does he say? He acts again, not for himself, but for humanity, demanding that they need help, proving that he would rather protect humanity than have the perfect dream life that he has always wanted with the person that he loves. So if this is a reprogrammed Vision meant to be the model for the Sentinel program, it just passed all of the checks in order to show that this thing works, and Hayward might get the green light to make an iron curtain around the planet, promising protection, but ultimately leading to something else entirely. I think that coming into Phase 4, Four, Marvel wants to integrate the X-Men and Fantastic Four stories as soon as possible and show us that these stories can exist in the MCU and they can be great. I think that's partly why they show Evan Peters and how the Sentinel story might be a crossover, showing that mutants and the Avengers are two sides of the same superpowered coin. It's also why I think that the person that Monica is going to meet might be Reed Richards or even possibly Doctor Doom. The theoretical technology that she described probably cost millions or even billions, and of course, it was ready the very next day. I think the only person with that kind of funding and that kind of smarts would probably be Doctor Doom himself. Or if he was still around, God rest his soul, I think Tony Stark could also do this. Having the WandaVision finale show the world that, hey, not only do X-Men style Sentinels exist in the MCU now, but the Fantastic Four are back as well, I think the internet would explode. A dozen videos a day about how it's possible and what it means for the future of the MCU. Comic book fans unite with movie watchers once again. People wouldn't be afraid to talk about what they would do as Mr. Fantastic, and normies, well, they would know just enough to know that this would be a colossal moment that changes everything for the MCU. Phase 4 would be ignited in the most badass way humanly possible, and then we could all go watch the next show about the two least powerful Avengers trying to be Captain America. But with that, we come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for being here and watching the video to the end. I cannot tell you how much your engagement has been driving a force and views to my video, and I love you guys for that so very much. This channel will be covering Marvel in a big way in 2021, as well as Westworld, Tolkien, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and many other truly incredible stories that mean something to me. If you want to support me directly, links are in the description below, as well as my novel on Amazon if you're interested in sci-fi. Special thank you to Michael Link, our top donor over on Patreon. Much love, everybody, and I cannot wait to talk to you all again very soon.